What's up, you guys? Chet Guthrie, the Dream Poet here, coming to you all with another vlog here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Once again, I'm here with Bruce and my friend Zach, and today, guys, we are going to be visiting someplace that is, well, very sad, very tragic. So this will be a more serious video. You see, this very tragic story will start in October of 2006 when a man named Zach jumps to his death. Now, this jump will be about 5 stories, and the officers who run up to his body, they will find a note attached to his body. This mysterious gentleman named Zach, this letter is a confessional letter. You see, he had committed murder. The murder in question was his girlfriend. Today, guys, we are going to go within Bloody Mary's museum, Voodoo Museum, on the 2nd floor to tell the story of Zach and Addie. So without further ado, you guys, let us continue with a very serious vlog. Let's do it. Anchor down. Alrighty, you guys, we're not allowed to film inside the building, but we are listening to the tour right now. But this is the apartment right here of what happened to Zach and Addie. Now, from here, I will be taking photos and I will be describing to you all what has gone on in this apartment. So without further ado, let's get inside. Behind this door is a tragedy. The tragedy of a relationship gone south. A relationship that ended so violently that it resulted in the death, the murder of one individual, and it resulted in the suicide of another. This is the story of Zach and Addie. Now, in order to tell this story, we must give a backstory to both these individuals. You see, Zach was originally from California, but he was a transplant to New Orleans. You see, his father lived in the area. At the time, he was living in California with his mother, and really he wanted to get a new life start. So he moved and he lived with his father, and during this time that he was living in New Orleans while he was still in high school, he met someone that would become his wife. Now, shortly after, he and this woman would become pregnant, but the marriage would end in failure. You see, Zach Bowen, he would join the military to pay for his little one, to take care of his family. He did two tours. One of them was in Iraq. But when Zach Bowen came back from Iraq, his ex-wife, as quoted, she said that he just wasn't himself. It was like he was a different person. Now, as this relationship ended, Zach, he comes back to New Orleans and he finds a job called the Spotted Cat. Now, while Zach is working at the Spotted Cat, he will meet this woman named Addie. Now, Addie Hall, she is from North Carolina, born and raised, and she transplanted herself to New Orleans to really get a new start. She had been in a really abusive relationship. She was picking up the pieces in her life. This woman, she was a very talented, she was a very talented poet. She was a very talented artist. She was quite the dancer. And as a day job, she worked at the Spotted Cat. Now, This is where this chance encounter happens between Zach Bowen and Addie Hall. This is the place where they will meet, and this is where this love story that ends in tragedy begins. You see, Addie, who doesn't want to be in a relationship, she notices that Zach is quite attractive. So she begins to test him. She begins to be quite feisty. She begins to be quite flirty to see if he could handle a person like her. Now, as this relationship continues to go on, well, this is where the mental issues of both sides, both parties begin. You see, Addie was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as as well as anxiety. Um, she she took her medications irregularly, and now one of the things that really brought these two lovers together was, well, drugs. And well, through this love, this really didn't help that much. But now, since we've given a little bit of a background between these two individuals, let us go into this very grisly tale. You see, on August 23rd, 2005, one of the most destructive hurricanes in United States history would be making its way through the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as this hurricane was making its way, people from all around New Orleans were making their way through the evacuation. They were moving out. They were trying to get to higher ground before this very destructive hurricane would hit the Gulf Coast and the very interior of New Orleans. Now, prior to this, Zach and Addie's relationship had already kind of been on the rocks. They were fighting a lot. With Addie being the free spirit that she was, she didn't want the responsibility of Zach's ex-wife and Zach's son. Now, this would cause quite a few fights between the two lovers until finally, well, Addie did not have a vehicle. Zach, he wanted to leave, but he wanted to stay, and he wanted to help Addie. So during this hurricane, the hurricane tears through New Orleans, tears everything down, and just leaves just absolute destruction. Now, through all this, Zach and Addie, they come through the dirt and the rubble. They are a few people that have decided to stay behind, and they are in this destroyed city. Almost no one is around, so much so that people are looting. Zach and Addie are living in an entirely different world. Now, it's safe to say that Hurricane Katrina brought these two lovers together. Well, quite literally, they spent every waking hour with one another. Some sources say they would break into different bars that had been destroyed. They would take the liquor and they would pour some for those who decided to stay behind. It was Zach and Addie's paradise, essentially. Now, while it became safer for news organizations to make their way in, such as CNN, Fox News, Zach and Addie had become quite the talk of the nation. They had been photographed for such resources as Nat Geo, Fox. They were around the country. They were essentially poster children of the wake after the wake of Hurricane Katrina. Now, when people come back, they start moving into the city. They start rebuilding. Things get back into order, and Zach and Addie, they have their problems once more. Now, while all this is happening, they're still fighting. They're still absolutely at each other's throats. They make the decision to get an apartment start fresh, start anew. And as they're walking down Rampart Street, they find a house for rent. It's a second story, it's a little loft. Above it is an old voodoo shrine. An active voodoo shrine. Well, this is where they get this apartment. And 2 days later, this tragedy, this murder, will take place. You see, Zach and Addie had still been fighting. They were still at one another's throats. And Addie had gotten word that Zach was cheating on her. Now, with Addie dealing with the things that she had been dealt in previous relationships, she didn't want any of this. So she talked with the landlord to see if she could get her name on it, but not his. Now, Zach will find this out, and he will be very unhappy. The landlord, he doesn't want Addie to do this, surprisingly. But Addie leaves, and that is the last time that anyone sees Addie Hall alive. Now, 11 days later, this is where Zach Bowen will leap 5 stories to his death. And he will have this note attached to him that will tell police what he has done. Now, this is a very, very gruesome sight. The cops, they go to Rampart Street, to this second-story loft apartment, and they find that Zach Bowen has dismembered Addie Hall. They find her legs in the fridge. They find her arms in what I believe is the stove. Overall, it is just horrific. And they find her head in a gumbo pot that is sitting on the stove. Yes, it was known as the Rampart Street Murders, and it is perhaps one of the most gruesome murders in New Orleans history. But, having told that story, now everybody knows. These photos have just been various things that were in the house, such as the stove. You can see that there was a lot of money on it. That is just people paying their respects. You did see some side-by-side comparisons of what the tub looked like. Some people believe that is where Zach Bowen dismembered Addie. And overall, to this day, it is still sickening to even think about. And now here in the museum, you will see a lot of dolls. One of them is Jody. From what I understood, to my knowledge, there are spirits attached to those dolls, I believe. From what I heard, it is a more or less kind of like a sanctuary for these spirits to dwell, seek refuge. Voodoo is not an evil practice. Actually, inherently, it is actually a very positive practice. If I understood through my research, voodoo was only made to look dark sometime in the 1920s, thus pushing practitioners kind of into, well, kind of like the subway in the darkness, kind of keeping it hush-hush and not really ever talking about it. Overall, this experience has been very unusual. When we went up to this apartment loft, the energy there in the room was very heavy, like very thick, very sad. And honestly, it felt like there were a lot of eyes on us. Not really out of fear, but it felt like more one of curiosity. But I found this very interesting. When I wanted to come to this location, I wanted to film it, but sadly there was a no filming policy, and I didn't, well, I respected it. I did ask twice, but I really didn't want to push, but I found this very interesting. The person that we're about to interview, she has been featured on Ghost Adventures, on BuzzFeed Unsolved. She's been featured on a lot of paranormal television shows. Super nice woman. But I found this very interesting. When we were talking, she goes up to me and she says, Addie says that there's more to her than just this murder. Now, that's just a paraphrase, but for whatever reason, that just hit me. Like, it was more than just having it said to me. I felt both a sudden piece of happiness, a sudden urge of happiness, warmth, peace. Well, it was more or less warmth, a very heavy warmth, of almost something, somewhat of a happiness, but at the same time, I was very, very sad. And during this whole time, I just could not let this go, but I felt the urge to go upstairs and say that I was sorry, because what was really going on in my mind is it goes back to Addie. Addie was a very artistic person. Addie was a poet. She was a dancer. It really made me think about my walk as an artist. It's not an easy life. It's very hard. And to think, or at least in my imagining, if she is still here on this earth, I imagine she must get pretty sad when that's the only thing that people want to talk about. Addie, in what I've looked at and what I've read, she was an incredible person outside of the drug usage and the just the stuff that she had been dealing with. But anyway, I'm glad that you all listened. We are going to go downstairs, and we are going to have an interview with none other than Bloody Mary herself.
My name is on the place. Hi, you tell me when.
Alrighty, when?
Hi, I'm Bloody Mary. You're here at my haunted museum. What's your name?
Chet.
And you are, what would you consider yourself? Ghost hunter or videographer? What?
A vlogger.
A vlogger, all right.
Yep, for YouTube.
Okay, well, I have a YouTube too, Bloody Mary New Orleans.
All right.
What you got to say? What you got to ask? What's going on?
Well, why we are here is we were not allowed to film upstairs to tell the story of Zach and Addie, but I thought I would talk with Miss Bloody Mary herself to allow her to tell the story of what happened with Zach and Addie.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to tell the whole story, but I will tell you about their spirits.
Yep.
Okay, so Zach and Addie are kind of considered the two newest known spirits in New Orleans. One of them died here. One of them killed themselves, but of course returned. He had left definitely some unfinished business. She's a growing spirit. She comes and goes. She's active, but he's got a little more karma to deal with since he had to deal with both murder and suicide.
True.
This is a 200-year-old building. There are 200 years of life and death here. This is not officially the Zach and Addie Museum, and I wasn't trying to make it so. They are two of the people who are important spirits here, but they're not the only ones. So I have at least 13 ghosts that we know by name, plus a whole lot of haunted artifacts and I really deal with the history of New Orleans. I've been here, my family's been here for 300 years. So I've got connections to all the spirits and really want to keep that history alive. So I don't just focus on that, but the true crime buffs come, as well as the ghost buffs and everybody else. And they are definitely modern ghosts, and they come and they go. The story has been plastered all over TV, generally in most cases incorrectly. I did Paranormal Lockdown here with Nick Groff. I did BuzzFeed Unsolved, which is everybody's favorite. I do Paracons every year.
Oh, wow.
You know, so we have lots of ghost interaction. And again, it's not just them, but they are definitely a part of it. So you have to come and see for yourself. We do ghost hunts every night, museum tours every day.
All right. Actually, I was wondering, what was it like to work with, shoot, I can't think of his name. Both Day, you
talking about Ryan and them, or you
yeah,
talking
Shane
about
Madej.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They were really nice. They were very real. And they even came back later and visited. So even though one was a non-believer and one was a big fraidy cat, they still tried and continued and dealt with it with respect, which is why I'm so picky about vloggers and people, because they spread a lot. A lot of bull. And I hear even what the tourists say out in front of this, and they have to add and embellish. And there was a History Channel show that was just awful.
Oh, God.
It was nothing at all. All the voodoo people tried not to do it in town because they tried to make it about voodoo, because this used to be the Voodoo Spiritual Temple. Now it is my haunted museum and voodoo and mystic area. But it wasn't about voodoo what went on here. They didn't even live here 2 days when this happened. They hadn't even unpacked.
Really?
They had just literally moved in, and it was the very next day. So, you know,
Really?
this was what they brought with them, not what was here. But Hollywood wants to make it their own story, and so do a hell of a lot of vloggers.
I mean, that's
so
why
I try to see what they want to see.
I mean,
She wants you to know that she was more than just this.
yeah.
You know, she was a poet and a dancer.
Wow.
You know, there's other sides of the story, and I got a book coming out, so we're saving a lot for that too.
Oh, that's
But I got an app that's got all the stories and crime scene photos and all kind of stuff. So you just got a Bloody Mary tour on your app store.
Alrighty.
Or come here, damn it.
Yep.
We're waiting. So were they.
Yep. Well,
Bye.
thank you.
That was just natural. That was very, very natural.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very surprising thing, you guys. I was not expecting to meet somebody from television, Miss Bloody Mary herself.
Yeah, I saw her on Ghost Adventures a couple of times.
And also on BuzzFeed Unsolved. Bruce, you want to say anything?
Honestly, I'm just happy I met a celebrity.
Yeah? So anyway, you guys, also, I got a bear skull. But anyway, without further ado, this is going to be another vlog. Remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Always means a lot. Goes to show that y'all care. So vlog over.